and welcome to Conversations with Mother Earth, brought to you by Grounded Press. My name is Anna Petrovic, and each week my guests and I explore one aspect of Mother Earth and the gifts that she gives us. We also discuss why these gifts are so precious and why we should value them. I got you curious? Good. We love curiosity. Let's start. Today's, and at the same time, my very first guest on Conversations with Mother Earth is Galia Orme, founder and CEO of CHOC CHICK, the home of raw cacao. Galia is now based in the UK, but her roots are in Argentina, where also some of her earliest childhood memories are of making, and of course, eating chocolate. Galia set up CHOC CHICK to promote the pure goodness of chocolate in its raw state and to bring the delights and benefits of raw chocolate to everyone. Her online shop went live in 2009, and her products are stocked in many wonderful retailers throughout the UK and Europe. So, as you can probably guess from my introduction, today we are going to talk about chocolate. How to know when chocolate is actually chocolate and why we all should value raw chocolate. By the way, I met Galia in person because we were both speakers at the European Sustainability Academy on the beautiful island of Crete in Greece. There I have tried her fantastic, or as she says, her choc-tastic product for the very first time. But before I continue talking about Galia and her inspiring company, let's hear all this from her personally. Galia, welcome to Conversations with Mother Earth.
Thank you, Dana. What a wonderful introduction. Thank you.
What can you add to my introduction? Maybe I forgot something, and please tell us more about your choc-tastic chocolate.
Thank you. Well, there's so much to tell. I always wonder, where do I start? I mean, I really love the title of it, From Chocolate with Love, because, or from cacao with love, or cocoa with love. There's so many ways and words for chocolate, but for me, it is a story of love, and it's a labor of love. I've always loved chocolate. I don't know many people who don't. If they don't, they're not friends of mine. But I grew up with chocolate, and I never imagined that chocolate could be good for us, or healthy, or good for the planet. You know, it has such a negative connotation. So for me, it was really about my love of chocolate and discovering that chocolate is good for you and can be good for farmers and for the environment. So it really starts with love, you know, with a real love of chocolate and trying to do things with love so that are beneficial for everyone.
Yeah, it's wonderful, wonderful. You mentioned the term sustainability and sustainable cacao. We know that in the last few years, the term sustainability, or the use of the term sustainable, sustainability, and so on, grow exponentially. And the sad reality is that many companies actually offer only a lip service to this word. What does actually sustainable mean for you and for your company?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. For me, it's for me and my company, and this was the reason for starting CHOC CHICK. For me, everything goes hand in hand: sustainability, ethical sourcing, awareness. So awareness of your supply chain, and responsibility, taking responsibility for your products and your actions and how you source sustainably. But it is a word that's now everybody's saying, yes, we source sustainably. For me, ethics are paramount. So if you are an ethical company and you are aware of all the aspects of your supply chain, so you know where your products come from, you know who is impacted by your product, you know what is impacted, the environment that's impacted, and you take responsibility for it. So, nothing is perfect. Sometimes there are things that might not be as sustainable as you would like them to be. At least you take action, or you take responsibility for making change. So I think it's not just the word sustainability. There's a lot involved in being a sustainable business, and ultimately the business must be held accountable and responsible for
Yes.
for its practices and business practices, sourcing practices on every level. And that's a commitment as well that businesses have to have, that we have. For me, it's a commitment as well to sourcing ethically, sourcing sustainably, and always having a connection and an awareness of my supply chain. So yes, so that's yeah.
Yeah, a very good point, because you are bringing up the topic, the very important terms, responsibility. And this is, of course, when you...
Diana, did we freeze?
Pardon? Can you hear me? Yes, the term responsibility, I think, is key here, that you rightfully mentioned. And of course, you, from following your work, I know that you visit farmers in Ecuador, that you see these people in the eyes, that you source your cacao from them, that you also work with Rainforest Alliance companies from South America. Of course, responsibility has a different connotation, a different aspect for you, because you really see these people and you meet them and you talk to them about the effects of so many things. So take us on a journey to Ecuador and tell us about these farmers and their lives.
So I think that's probably the best part of my business, apart from eating lots of chocolate. For me, really having the connection and the link with the farmers, the personal link. I mean, I love people, and I love getting to know people's stories and having a connection, a direct connection with people. And so traveling to Ecuador was one of the most magical events. And the first trip I did was in 2010, and I traveled with my father. And we had the most amazing 10 days in Ecuador, discovering cacao cooperatives and meeting the farmers, and it was a real adventure. 7 hours on a jeep through the jungles, and meeting the different communities, and and my father making jokes the whole time, so it was great. It was a very special first introduction to Ecuador, and since then, oh, I'm so sorry, there's a call to it. Sorry, I'll start again. So so it was a very special introduction to Ecuador, and the cocoa farmers doing it with my father. Many of the plantations they're all cooperatives that I work with, and they have a central cocoa collection center. So the farmers, there can be 100 farmers in a cooperative, there can be 400, 500 farmers, and they'll take the cocoa pulp. So the cocoa pods are cut in half, and inside is a white mushy pulp, which is delicious. It actually tastes like lychee, I don't know. Lychee. It's very sweet, but it ferments. It starts fermenting very quickly. So that is, the pulp is removed, and that's taken in trucks, sometimes on horses, to the cocoa collection centers. And it's a very communal thing. So the families will, cut the husks together, take everything together, and the cooperatives themselves will collect everything on trucks, or, they'll work together to take each yield to the collection centers, where there it's qualified, weighed. If it's a single origin, if it's a hybrid, the farmers are paid fairly. And we have access to a Google spreadsheet, so we can see which lot came from which farmer and how much they were paid, which I think is phenomenal. And then in these cocoa collection centers, the farmers then, they get paid, and then they have other crops and other things. So I'll go back to the collection, the processing of the cocoa, but one of the amazing aspects of cacao is that it's a collaborative plant. It's a collaborative, I always call it my collaborative plant, because it needs to grow with other plants. So it's best grown in the shade of other trees. So it grows with plantain, banana, mango, oranges. So the farmers have different crops, and that's the most sustainable way of growing it. So it's biodynamic often, it's organic, and the pods fertilize the ground. So it's a very, like you were saying about the circular economy, it's a very circular process, but it's a collaborative process because cacao needs other trees to grow well. And I absolutely love that, the way cacao grows, and that is the best cacao. It should always be grown collaboratively as part of biodynamic or not as a monoculture, as a polyculture, as different crops together, and you get the best cacao that way. But once the farmers, get take the pulp to the collection centers, they get paid, and there the collection centers are the experts. And again, the cooperatives are involved, so there's always a representative of the cooperative. There's a lot of pride in this. There's a lot of pride in the growing of cacao, knowing when to when the pods are ready and ripe, and also there's a lot of pride in the process of fermentation, of drying. It has to be done for a certain number of days. The farmers I work with, they ferment for 4 to 5 days, and they have the big wooden boxes, and every day they go in and they stir it. Their hands are in the and it smells amazing. It's like alcohol, it's fermenting, and it smells fantastic. And you see the beans start to change from the white color to a light brown, then a dark brown. And when it's a nice dark chocolate brown, the beans are ready. But it's constantly, the temperature is measured, it's constantly moved around so that everything ferments evenly. So it's a very, specific process. And I love the farmers explaining it to me, because, you get your hands dirty, you get your hands in there. And there's a lot of expertise in that. And there's a lot of, pride in that. And then it's dried for about a week. And again, there's a process there where the beans have to be moved, and there's a big rake, a wooden rake, where they're moved. The collection centers I work with, they section out every lot. So there's even in a plastic envelope, you have the name of the farmers, the type of cocoa, and everything is kept separate so that there's complete traceability, and you can see where everything comes from. So, and the smells there are incredible. I love the scent of the cocoa drying and fermenting. So it's a really, for me, it's a magical process, but it's also a very collaborative and a very ethical process.
That's wonderful. Can you hear me? That is fascinating to listen about how the cacao grows best with other plants. It looks like cacao can teach us diversity. Who would have thought that we can actually learn from a plant on how to practice diversity? Because it's exactly what we need in business, to find out who works with whom the best and nurture that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It can teach us about diversity. Yeah.
And cacao was a very valuable resource in ancient civilizations like Incas, Mayas, Aztecs. It was even the money, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
Why should we value chocolate today, or cacao today?
Well, I think it's always had a special place in societies, and ancient societies, and now, because it has so many nutritional benefits and also emotional benefits to it. Cacao is tryptophan. It's very high in many chemicals and has over 300 nutritional properties. So magnesium, iron, potassium. It has a lot of minerals as well as vitamins. But it's known to increase the serotonin levels in our brain. It makes us happy. It's considered the love. It's a symbol of love, but it also makes us feel amorous. It's a very it has a lot of good benefits in our systems when it's minimally processed, when there's not a lot of sugar, when it's not highly added with additives. But so it's really been valued over the centuries as a very special product, or a special, they made, the chocolates, hot chocolate. It's for lovers. It's for high societies initially. It's for I think it should be valued. It's a it's such a diverse and collaborative crop. It has so many nutritional benefits, and it can improve the lives of other people when it's sourced and ethically and sustainably. So it has so many benefits. There is a dark side to chocolate, where there is a history of slavery, there's a history of exploitation, and in terms of the personal, the humanity of it. And there's also, high in sugar. It can be very fattening. So there are lots of negatives, but there are a lot of positives. And I think that needs to be valued. And that's what we need to pay a little bit more for, because that way we can secure and ensure that it continues to be grown sustainably and ethically, and it improves the lives of other people and our lives. We want to feel good. It's a feel good. Cacao and chocolate are feel good foods, and we should feel good about eating it and feel good about the people we impact with our choices and what we buy and how we consume it. So
it's interesting because by paying a little bit more for your sustainable chocolate, we actually don't need to pay for additional supplements like vitamins, minerals, and all the other products that cost a lot of money. You just have to buy a sustainable chocolate.
Exactly. Good, high quality, high cocoa content, either cacao powder or chocolate. And it's particularly good for women. It's very high in magnesium. It's a very high source of magnesium, and also antioxidant flavonols. So it's one of the highest sources of antioxidants in nature. So more than blueberries, more than red wine, more than green tea. It's 3 times more antioxidants than green tea. And it's particularly beneficial for women. We crave chocolate at certain times of the month during our cycles, and even in menopause. I'm now postmenopausal, and I think it was my survival mechanism. Drinking hot chocolate was calming. It gave me magnesium, it gave me nutrients, and it has so many benefits, and I think especially for women, and I think that's why naturally we love it so much, and we crave cacao or chocolate.
Yes, and our body tells us at some level this is what it needs.
Absolutely.
I think there is a message behind it, and I'm sure that some of my listeners, also a lot of my listeners, also like to do some sports. Magnesium we need for our muscle development. Magnesium is crucial. Also, with an advanced age, we also need more magnesium for our muscles, and to keep us mobile, to keep us moving. So lots of benefits there. I didn't even know some of these. So Galia, that is really wonderful. Before we conclude, have I forgotten anything? Is there anything I missed that you would like to add and tell our listeners?
Well, there's always so much to talk about chocolate and cacao. So I can talk about it for hours and hours and hours, but I thought I would just share a recipe. So we can end with what inspired me to create my company, because I couldn't believe how easy it is to make raw chocolate. So raw chocolate means cacao that's minimally processed. So there are no additives. It's just from the bean, the cocoa seeds, fermented, dried. The cacao is very lightly roasted, because you have to roast it. You have to get rid of all the bacteria, and then we just extract the cacao powder and then the cacao butter, which is the fat from the cocoa bean. So you can make chocolate by recreating the bean, putting the bean back together. And my recipe is very, very simple. So you take 100 grams of cacao butter, obviously CHOC CHICK cacao butter, and then about 30 grams, so 6 tablespoons of cacao powder, and you melt the cacao butter in a bain-marie, in a bowl over a pan of water. So very low heat, melt it very gently, add the powder, so 6 tablespoons of cacao powder. And this is the secret. You mix it with a metal whisk. So, you know, like a big metal whisk.
Yes.
So you mix it together so that it, in a way, it tempers, even though you're not really tempering the metal in that. It helps bind the crystals and the chocolate. And then I use a syrup to sweeten it. So it's up to you how sweet you want to make it. So I use maple syrup. I love maple syrup. So I put 3, 4, sometimes 5 tablespoons, depends how sweet I want it. And then I put a tiny bit of rock salt, you know, Himalayan sea salt, or not sea salt, but pink Himalayan salt or sea salt, a little bit, just a little bit. And that lifts it, makes it actually taste sweeter. And you taste it all the time. So you add according to your taste and your palate. And then, you know, continue mixing it with the metal whisk. You remove it from the heat. Once it melts, you remove from the heat. And then I put it into little baking cases or in a plastic tub. And in there I can put dried fruit and nuts, or just hazelnuts, or just plain. And I put cocoa nibs in there as well. And then you pop them in the little you put them in little cases, and then you put it in the freezer for 15-20 minutes, and that's it. Your chocolates are ready. So it's so simple, and you can get really creative and add different flavors. You can make mint. You can add mint. You can add. I put a tiny bit of rosewood. If I use pistachios, and I can talk about this for hours. I put some pistachios in rose water. I soak them, and then I take them out, and then I put them in the bottom of the little cases, and I put the chocolate over. And then you can decorate with rose petals, or I put whiskey. Oh my God, whiskey and walnuts. I soak walnuts, rum and raisins. You can be so creative and make very delicious chocolates that, you know, it's up to you. You have control over what you add to it. And that is pure, nearly 100% cocoa, because you're using everything from the cocoa bean to make your chocolates at home. So.
That's beautiful. My goodness. Now you got me hungry for chocolate, right? For CHOC CHICK chocolate right now. Yes, and especially the maple syrup element. I think my husband will love that. He's a Canadian, so
of course
he will love that. Yeah, but that brings me made me think of YouTube video, because I'm sure that my listeners also got curious about your products and would like to know where to find them. So where can they shop for CHOC CHICK products, and where can they find more about you and your company? Which channels do you prefer?
So obviously online, chocchick.com, and we're available on Amazon as well. In the UK, we're in all Holland and Barrett retailers. It's a big health food chain, and lots of independents, lots of smaller local retailers. We also sell our products packaging free. So sometimes you can find, we have chocolates as well. I have quinoa pops and plantain bites, and you can find them in dispensers. If we sell it packaging free, and many retailers around the UK. And we're also in the Middle East, in Dubai, in Qatar, in Saudi Arabia, at Spinneys in Dubai, so and different health food stores, Jones the grocer, and I think we're even available in Hong Kong. I know one of our distributors sell in Hong Kong. So you can find CHOC CHICK, look for it, and if you don't find it, ask for it, and hopefully we can grow our sales, because we're still a relatively small business. But search for us online, CHOC CHICK, on our website, on Amazon. And yeah, I hope you all enjoy cacao the way I do, and love it as much as I do.
I'll ask at Marks and Spencer in Hong Kong. Maybe they got it there also.
Yeah.
There. That's truly wonderful. Dear listeners, please note that there will be a link in my bio, and I will also have the link to the CHOC CHICK website on the Grounded Press Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook profiles. So in case you're looking, you go and you want to find the website or the links that Galia just mentioned, please go to these profiles and you will find them also after the show aired. Galia, thank you for a wonderful conversation today. As you said, you could speak about your company for hours and I could listen to you for hours. This was a beautiful conversation. Thank you so much for joining today, my very, very first conversation with Mother Earth.
Thank you, Dana. It's an absolute pleasure and an honor. Thank you.
Dear listeners, this was the conversation with Mother Earth brought to you by Grounded Press. Next week, we are going to Africa. Join us because it's going to be a beautiful story.